How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
Some idea.
I am not completely like other people.
What do you mean by that?
People dislike me because I am not completely like them. I am trying to do with my life something which few people try to do, and this influences my thinking and consequently my action.
What is it you're trying to do with your life?
Play the piano for people.
I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.
the end. I'm burning in the stone There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the stone There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone This is the final
Hey, what's going on, guys? What's going on? What's going on? Hey, we got some dubs to give out in the chat already. W. Suzanne, I am. Thank you so much for the 5 gifted channel memberships. I really, really appreciate that. Then the legend, the king himself, Old Sub Sailor, massive dubs to you, bro. We really, really appreciate it. Guys, channel memberships are great to give out today if you feel like it, because coming up at 6:45 p.m. tonight, we do have a spy stream. So today is going to be a spy stream kind of day. That means at 6:45 p.m. tonight, we are going to be going inside a live leftist organizing call, specifically in this case to talk about the Mayday protests. If you are a supporter on my Substack, Karlyn, Karlyn.substack.com. If you are a supporter of my locals, my Patreon, my Twitter, or a YouTube channel member, or over on Rumble as well, then you get access to Spy Stream. And so seeing what the left is planning directly, there is no better way to get access to the news, so far as I'm concerned, than to go directly to the primary source. We don't need conservative influencers and pundits who don't know what's going on telling us. We can literally just go listen to their organizing calls and listen to what they're doing directly. We got a dub for Mitchell in the chat. We got a dub for Prita in the chat. Thank you so much for the gifted channel memberships, guys. Mayday's not that far off, guys. We got a lot of stuff to do before then. We got a lot of preparation to do. We're going to be watching as many Mayday organizing calls as possible because, as you guys know, it is my goal to have volunteers on the ground in all 50 states to be actually seeing what is happening at the Mayday mass general strike and protest in your area. Yes, there will probably be one in your area, no matter where you live in the country. And we'll find out more about how they're organizing that tonight, and we'll take a look at their map and all that stuff. But I want to organize a team of volunteers on the ground in all 50 states to collect direct data and intelligence about what the left is doing in the real world, not online. I want to see what they're doing in the real world. I want to see what groups are showing up at these Mayday protests. I want to see what propaganda they're handing out. I want to see what's going on in your city direct from your video camera or your phone or wherever. Like, let me ask you guys this. Let me put the chat on the screen. I do not have the call for volunteers ready for this yet, but I will have the call for volunteers ready for this next week. So one in the chat, if you are willing to go to a Mayday protest or mass general strike in your area to collect evidence about what is going on the ground. Just like we did for the No Kings protest, you're not going to be in any danger. This is going to be completely public. You don't have to worry about it. One in the chat, if you right now know that when I release that call for volunteers next week, you are going to sign up and you're going to be one of the people I have on the ground in all 50 states, fingers crossed, to collect direct evidence about what is going on. So the next couple weeks, for people who are putting ones in the chat, and you might not be ready to put a one in the chat yet, that's all right. We can get you ready. I know it's going to be kind of scary if this is your first time doing this. We will do another training, just like we did with the No Kings protest. Again, I will have more information on that next week after I've done my taxes and all that shit. Anyway, we are going to prepare you guys for this. It is simply a matter of going to the event in your area. The bigger event you can go to, the better. And collecting propaganda and zines and pamphlets and flyers that are being handed out and stickers, taking pictures of the groups who are there, making sure that we're documenting all the different groups that are showing up to these things, because this is going to be far more leftist than the No Kings protest. We're going to see far more far left groups showing up at the Mayday stuff than we did at the No Kings protest, because it's just generally more of a leftist event, whereas No Kings, progressive protests. And Sarah, I do also appreciate stuff like this. I know some of you have reasons that prevent you from going out there, but donating is fucking awesome. And we really appreciate that. Everyone has ways that they can help out, guys. And all ways are valuable. Not everyone can go to an on-the-ground event. And I absolutely understand and respect that. But there are a lot of people who can. We need to document and collect everything so that we can then come back and organize it. And what we're doing with this information is we are putting together a map of the modern activist left. And just in case people think, hang on. Just in case people think that we haven't done this before. Oh, we have, actually. We have actually. Oh, no, that's not the right button. Oh, no. We have actually done this. We did this with the No Kings protest, and we're still working on this data, okay? I'm still have things I'm looking for in this data. But we had volunteers on the ground in over 30 states. We had volunteers on the ground in over 40 cities, and we collected the names of almost 400 groups that were on the ground at the No Kings protest. Now, this is an incomplete data set. We know this. This doesn't have every single group that was on the ground everywhere. It honestly doesn't even have every single group that was on the ground in each of these cities. Some people are brand new at this. We're doing the best we can, but we still collected almost 400 groups. And those groups span the range from normie Democrat and liberal and progressive groups to far left and DSA types and revolutionary socialists and communists. In fact, over 18% of the groups that we collected at the No Kings protest are revolutionary groups. And so we're still going through the data for this, but this data is not just about the No Kings protest. This data is about what groups are out there actively in the real world trying to recruit and radicalize more people to the far left. That is what this is about. This is about understanding what groups are active in the ecosystem. They're actually out there doing stuff, handing out flyers and that sort of thing. What groups are actively recruiting people, what messaging those groups are using, what propaganda those groups are using. Everything from the Revolutionary Communists of America to the Party for Socialism Liberation to Socialist Alternative to the Independent Socialist Group to the RevComs, which is a weird little culty group, to, of course, Antifa was at several No Kings protests. There were the DSA obviously was there, the Sunrise, but there were all sorts of different leftist groups that showed up at the No Kings protest. And the Mayday ones are going to be even more far left than that. So the data that we are collecting on the ground, it's not just about what happened at this event on this day. Even Act Up was in New York City. Yep, that's right. The people that we watch online are actively out there recruiting every single day. This is not just about what happened that day, although that is interesting information. This is about actually creating a literal map of here are the active leftist groups all over the country who are going out and working every single day to recruit and radicalize more people to the far left. People come on the channel all the time and they say, Karlyn, how big is this problem? How big is it really? And the first thing I say is, I promise you it's much bigger than you think it is. It's much bigger than you think it is. How do you know that? Because I've been going down the rabbit hole into this stuff for years with a lot of people who've been going down the rabbit hole into this stuff for years. And once you go into the rabbit hole of leftist activism, you end up in a world of spider webs and fucking mazes that just seem to be ever expanding at every single term. The amount of data that we have collected over the last 5 years of doing this stuff on the channel is so fucking huge. I can't even begin to quantify it. And I know that this, you know, if you aren't in it like we are, this might seem abstract, but it is fucking massive. Okay, but how do you know that? I'm trying to put together a map to show you. I'm trying to actually bring logic to all this information and put together a map to show you. And I think the very best way to start doing that is by saying, here are the groups that we have observed with our physical eyes. Here is the propaganda they're handing out. Here is what the active groups in the real world are saying and doing. So that is what I'm trying to do with this. I really do appreciate everyone who went to the No Kings protest. I appreciate everyone who is planning on doing the Mayday protest. We will be doing a ton of preparation for this, guys, in the next couple of weeks if you don't feel like you're there yet. And one of the things that we are going to do in order to do that preparation is, again, we are going to watch as many Mayday organizing calls as possible. And so that is what we will be doing tonight for Spy Stream. If you are a YouTube channel member and you just got your membership, let me show you actually how you get to the Spy Stream information. If you just got your channel membership, here is what you do. Hang on. There we go. Couldn't see myself. You go to my YouTube channel homepage. You click on the post tab. Underneath the post tab, when you are a YouTube channel member, the very first thing you're going to see is the link for Spy Stream. If you are a supporter on my Substack, Karlyn, KARLYN.substack.com, you go to the homepage, you click on this, you scroll down. If I keep scrolling, I'm going to show you the link, so I'm not going to do that, but you find it there. If you're a Locals member, you find it there. If you're a Patreon member, you find it there. If you're on Twitter, you find it in the subscriber feed on Twitter. If you're over on Rumble, just sit tight, and I will make sure you guys have access to it over on Rumble. Just hang out on the channel, and you will get a notification or something when we start the Spy Stream a little bit later on tonight. So we are going to be doing an infiltration tonight. I wanted to make sure people knew that. I will remind people again later. But until then, can I work out some feelings? Until then, until we do the hard work that like no one else on the internet is willing to do, can I work out some feelings? Can I work out some feelings? I feel like it's been a minute since I've worked out some feelings on the channel. I feel like, you know, that hasn't happened recently. Oh my God, Chicalago! Chicalago! W's! Thank you, bro. Definitely Aries season. Definitely Aries season. There used to be a thing that would happen on the channel. Okay, let me ask you guys this. Let me ask you guys this, because there's so many new people in the chat, and this is part of why I wanted to have this stream talking about it. And I don't know how many people are going to be interested in this. And quite frankly, I don't care if this is my lowest viewed stream on YouTube ever. I don't care if people come into the comments and go, "Fuck you, Karlyn. Why are you always talking about drama and baby?" I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. One in the chat, if you were around during the gangstalking that I had to endure for 2 years of my life, this happened between 2021 and 2023. There are a lot of new people on the channel. There are a lot of older people on the channel too that were around. One in the chat, if you were around for the gangstalking and you know exactly what I'm talking about. 2 in the chat if you don't know what happened and this is going to be new information. Yo! Raccoon Enforcer? Bro. Super generous super chat. I really, really, really appreciate it, bro. Let's get a round of dubs for Raccoon Ice Enforcer. Thank you so much for supporting my channel. I really appreciate it more than I can say. So people people who you were around, you heard stories, but you weren't on Twitter at the time. So for people who don't know my backstory, I was basically a normie for a long time. I was really into politics when I was in college. After I graduated from college in 2003, after I graduated from college in 2003, I basically kind of got out of politics. I was still into it a little bit, but really after I graduated from college, I started just focusing on my career. I worked in higher education at the time. I worked for colleges all over New England. I had jobs at different colleges. I did different things. I did admissions, I did marketing, I did fundraising, I did social media. I was one of the very early like social media professionals in higher education. So if you ever had to deal with a college via social media, or your kids have ever had to deal with a college via social media, like you're welcome. I was one of the first people doing that. Um, and so I did that for a long time, and then I ended up going and working for a consulting company. I ended up like I started my PhD in organizational psychology at some point because I met a woman at one of the college at Dartmouth when I worked at Dartmouth. Yeah, I worked in an Ivy League school. I also almost went to Dartmouth for graduate school, by the way. I actually got into Dartmouth. So fun fact for me, I actually have gotten into Ivy League schools, but I didn't choose to go because I decided to take that would have been a whole weird direction my life would have gone in that would have brought me to a completely different place. I decided not to go to Dartmouth anyway. So I decided to go do my PhD instead in organizational psychology because I had met an organizational psychologist when I worked at Dartmouth, and she kind of changed my life and she kind of changed my perspective, and she kind of took me under her wing and mentored me for a long time, and I was like, I want to do this. I want to do this corporate training thing because Cynthia, dubs to Cynthia. Thank you so much, Cynthia, my queen, my goddess. I appreciate you very much. Because like I was one of those people that I didn't really understand like office politics and that sort of thing. And so she taught me all about that, and she taught me about like all the interpersonal stuff in the workplace and the psychology of the workplace and all that stuff. And it made my work experience much better. Like I was much happier what in the workplace when I understood what was going on around me, because I was truly, and there are many of these people out there, maybe you guys are some of those people. I truly did not understand all of the office politics stuff that was going on around me. But once I understood the psychology of it, it made me a lot happier because I was able to put things in perspective and I was able to navigate it better. And I was like, holy shit, this is fucking awesome. This is like way better than doing social media for fucking colleges, which I always kind of hated. I hated being like a social media marketer or whatever. And so I decided to go do my PhD in that, and I did that. I went to work for a company that was like I did consulting for colleges essentially. I was like one of the people that like if you were like a college president or vice president, you would get on the phone with me and talk about data and strategy and like all those things, and I wrote white papers and shit like that to try to Christian. Christian Watson is, I'm not going to say what element he has in this story. I'm not going to say what element he has in this story, but I very, very, very much appreciate the gift that you gave me in all of this. And perhaps I'll explain a little bit later, but I very much appreciate the gift that you gave me in all of this in ways that I can't even tell you. So thank you, Christian. Appreciate it. Um, so where was I? So I was doing this consulting stuff in higher education. At the same time, I was building my organizational psychology practice. I tell you guys all this so that you understand. I had a lot of shit going on in my life, and I was kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do, basically. I ended up going full time with my organizational psychology practice in I started it basically like I started like it low level consulting in like 2012 or something like that. I ended up going full time with it in 2015, built a business. I was traveling all over the country doing corporate training and mindfulness training. I wrote a book about mindfulness in the workplace called Zen Your Work. Still a great fucking book, by the way. I actually found a whole box of my first book, that I'm gonna have to give away as prizes at some point, because I really don't know what else to do with it. But like, I actually wrote a really good fucking book about mindfulness at work, and I was really like excited about that and all that stuff. So oh my God, Cynthia, my goddess, the legend. Thank you, Cynthia. Massive dubs to Cynthia. Really, really, really appreciate it. So I had my, and at the same time also, I got really around 2015, 2016, as part of like, I was developing myself as like an executive and performance coach, because that was part of what I was doing with corporate consulting. I was not only going in and doing keynotes, and I would do team facilitations, and I would teach people about the psychology of the workplace, and I would teach people how to work better together, and I would administer psychological profiles to entire organizations, and then do the analysis on them and all that stuff. I was also kind of like really expanding as an executive and a performance coach, because that was what, like, I fucking love coaching, and I'm a great coach. I am great at this corporate training shit, by the way. I know, like, I've had to like kind of step away from that to do this socialist analysis thing, which is very similar to corporate training in ways that you guys might not understand. But like, I was a very good organizational psychologist. Anyway, so one of the things I was doing to try to develop myself as an executive and performance coach is I started getting really into spirituality myself. And this is when I was doing a lot of like ayahuasca retreats and meditation retreats and stuff like that. And I did all sorts of crazy, wacky things. And I started really getting into like meditation. I mean, I wrote a book about mindfulness. Is anyone surprised about this? There was a time in my life I was literally meditating for like up to 4 hours a day. No shit. I got really into meditation, like really fucking into it. And so I was doing all this stuff for years. And I want to try to set the scene for you guys of like, for people who don't know my backstory and don't know how we ended up in this place. I was in a very, very insulated world where I had reached a point with my like my organizational psychology business where I really didn't have to take on clients I didn't want to. Like, when you first start a business, you have to take on clients you don't want to, because you have to pay the bills, right? I had reached a point where, like, I really was only taking on the clients I wanted to work with, so that was a deeply satisfying experience. I was able to have time and flexibility to travel and go do all this crazy spirituality stuff. I was getting really into, like, the coaching world, where I was, and the coaching world is very different than politics. Like, personal coaching, life coaching, executive coaching, like all that stuff. There's so many different types of coaches in the world. Some coaches suck, some coaches are awesome. But when you're in that professional community, it is actually a relatively positive community. Like, people help each other, they support each other. Very different than politics. I was in this little niche kind of world where I really only had to interact with the things that I wanted to interact with and that made my life better, and that were like enforcing what I wanted to do and what I was trying to create. Well, I was also knitting. At the time, I was knitting a lot because I am, as you guys know, a knitter. And in about 2019, social justice started to take over the knitting community. Have you guys heard this story before? I've told it about a million times. And so I had my beautiful little bubble of a world completely fucking rocked when social justice and leftist bullshit started taking over my knitting community and fucking ruined everything. Everyone was fighting all the time. I just wanted to go on Instagram to look at pictures of yarn and knitting patterns. That was like literally all I wanted to do. And I couldn't do that anymore because everyone was fighting about everything and making people apologize and like all this bullshit. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And at the same time, my friends, most of whom worked in higher education and were therefore leftist, because that's the world I came from, that was like where I made a lot of my friends, they all started going fucking crazy as well. And they started demanding I do anti-racist training. And I was like, I'm not doing this bullshit. Like, no, I know what this is. I don't need to do this. Karlyn, you're racist if you don't do this. I was like, fuck you. Like, so my friends started going crazy. The knitting world started going crazy. And I was like, what the fuck is even going on? And so I started searching for answers. And I went down this rabbit hole. I didn't even know. It's not to say that I didn't know that this woke bullshit was happening, because I was working in higher education when the woke bullshit was really starting to get really bad. And I remember I was working in higher education. Do you guys remember when there were those student protesters at Yale who got a Yale professor fired over a Halloween costume or something like that? I was working in higher education when that happened. Even when the Evergreen stuff happened, I was doing organizational consulting with in higher education when all the Evergreen bullshit happened. It's not as though I didn't understand what was happening, but it was like it was so far removed from my daily experience that I didn't pursue it. So I didn't understand it well. And it's like you can be a very smart person, but if you're not paying attention to something, it's not like you're just going to learn that thing through osmosis. You have to actually pay attention to it. I wasn't paying attention to any of this woke bullshit. I was a Democrat. I hated Donald Trump. I thought Donald Trump was going to ruin everything. I was really upset when he was elected and all that stuff. But because I was so into the coaching and the spirituality stuff, it didn't affect me as much as it affected my friends. It didn't affect me as much as it affected other people. Yo, I wish, Shelly, I wish I had been there. I really do. I would have loved to see it in person. I know it's like maybe a little bit different now, like you were actually there, but it's like January 6th. Like I'm always glad I was actually at January 6th because like I know what happened. I was fucking there. That's cool though. It's good to see you. So I started to understand this like like woke leftist stuff in about 2019. And one of the ways I started to understand that is I came across a YouTube show called Unsafe Space. Unsafe Space was hosted by two people. It was hosted by a guy named Carter Laren and a woman named Carrie Smith. And Unsafe Space was one of the only podcasts on the internet that I could find that was covering the woke takeover of the knitting community. And so I started watching Unsafe Space avidly in 2019. And I was like a total outsider to all this stuff. I had no fucking clue what was going on. So this kind of became one of my guiding kind of like things for understanding that the world was much different than I thought it was because I just hadn't been paying attention to any of this shit. So, several months later, after all this started, I accidentally got thrust into the political spotlight because what Unsafe Space did to me was Unsafe Space kind of like it inspired me to listen to people on the political right spectrum, like the MAGA people. This is back in 2019. It inspired me to listen to people who I thought I would disagree with in order to ascertain, do you actually disagree with them or was this all propaganda? And so I kind of challenged myself, and people know that like when I challenge myself to do something, I usually end up doing it, and I usually end up doing more than what's required. And so I started this journey of just listening to different right-leaning commentators that I thought I hated based on like listening to MSNBC and stuff like that. And I would just listen to them on podcasts and like their full podcast or whatever. And I started doing that. And this took place over the course of months. This was not just a 1 week thing. This took place over months. Okay. I started listening to these people and realizing that, okay, maybe I don't agree with them on everything, but like they're not evil, they're not Satan, they're not any of these things. It's just they have different ideas about what's going on. And this all led up to me going to the infamous Trump rally on the eve of the New Hampshire primary in 2020, where I was like, okay, Karlyn, you've been listening to people who disagree with you for like several months. And so maybe you should just go and be around it in person and just see what's going on for yourself. And so I went to the Trump rally. It was a great experience. I had a lot of fun. And it was completely different than what I thought it was going to be. And so I came back to my house and the very next day wrote an article and I put it up on Medium. And I said, this is what I'm a Democrat for 20 years. And I don't think the left is prepared for what's coming. And I don't think the left understands what this Trump thing actually is. Well, I didn't think anyone was ever going to read that. I never wanted to be in politics. I never wanted to be a content creator in politics. It was never part of my life plan at all. The first day that article was up, I think maybe 300 people read it. By the second day, over 2 million people had read it. And all of a sudden, it was being retweeted everywhere. And I was on Fox News, and I was on Glenn Beck, and I was on Dave Rubin's show, and all this fucking bullshit. And I became, in 2020, the symbol of the Democrat who left the left to vote for Trump. And I was not prepared for the ways in which my life would change. I had never wanted to be a public person. I had never thought about being a public person. It wasn't part of my plan at all. My life was fucking great. I was making a fuck ton of money, doing exactly what I wanted to do. And I didn't have people trying to cancel me all the time. I didn't have to deal with any of this bullshit. But once my article went viral, and then PragerU made a video about me, and then I went on tour with the Walkaway movement every weekend of my life for 6 months in the back half of 2020, my life changed significantly. Also, the pandemic kind of fucked up doing corporate training and retreats and stuff like that. I still did some virtual stuff, but like really during the pandemic, because all of a sudden I had these eyes on me, my YouTube channel grew substantially. My YouTube channel achieved almost all of its growth in 2020 when I had all these eyes on me. I was on all these shows and the pandemic was happening. And I was like, okay, Karlyn, well, you have this audience on YouTube. You might as well utilize it. And this is obviously, I'm very much a believer in like fate and destiny and all that stuff, and believing that there's a plan for me in this life, and that if I deviate off the path, the universe is going to kick my ass back onto it, whether I like it or not. And so I just started streaming on YouTube. And again, I had no fucking clue what I was doing. But the channel just kept growing bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was like, well, there's obviously a reason this is happening. There's obviously a purpose that this is happening. Thank you, Naruto, for being a member of the channel for 30 months. I just saw a video pop up on my timeline of Steven Crowder has joined the attacks on Megyn Kelly for speaking the truth. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. We'll look into that later, Naruto. Thank you for that. Well, I mentioned Carrie Smith earlier, and her being one of the people that I watched on that Unsafe Space show that really kind of woke me up to all of this. Thank you, Ben, for that. I do appreciate it. I'm not doing a channel membership goal today, but I appreciate the sentiment, bro. Thank you. Thank you. You found me during Walkaway, Julie? Yeah, that was a whole experience in and of itself. So the woman, Carrie Smith, that was on this Unsafe Space podcast, Carrie also wanted to be the Democrat who left the left in 2020. To this day, people still confuse me with Carrie Smith because they say, you were on Tim Pool's show to talk about being a Democrat who left the left. No, I wasn't. I was never on Tim Pool's show. I've never even spoken to Tim Pool. I know Tim Pool hates me. I know Tim Pool's afraid of me, but I've never been on his show, and I never will go on his show because fuck that asshole. But like, it was Carrie who was on his show because Carrie was also trying to be the Democrat who left the left. And so I don't see things as competition between content creators. I don't see life as a competition, guys. I think there's more than enough for everyone. I think I can do my thing and you can do your thing. And Carrie Smith, as toxic as that bitch is, can do her thing. I think there is more than enough for all of us. I think the universe is an abundant place, and you need to find the thing that makes you happy and excited, and you need to do that thing and just focus on your own shit. We are not in competition with anyone else. We are only in competition with ourselves. Thank you so much for being a member of the channel for 4 months, KK. I'm so grateful for your dedication and for your following the nudges. Thanks for sharing your story. I've never heard it. That's why I thought this was important to talk about today. Also, we're doing a spy stream in about an hour, so it's a good time to do it. We don't really have the time to dig into any other content. Thank you, IM, for the super chat. Thank you for going down the rabbit hole and continuing to listen to everything and insisting on us hearing everything. It's important to hear everything in context. I totally agree. I totally agree. Thank you so much for that super chat. So Carrie Smith thought she was in competition with me. And Carrie Smith decided the very best way for her to be the Democrat who left the left was for her to backstab me and to start lying about me all over the internet. And I really do think that Carrie Smith has a screw loose as well, because Carrie Smith literally started telling people that I was her abusive mother. I'm not making this up. Carrie has an entire essay that she wrote on the internet that is there to this day, where she is explaining to people how I am her abusive mother. And there are so many posts that this bitch has made about me. We're not going to go through all of them because we could not go through all of them in a single day. But I want people to understand that, like, the reason that the gang stalking started was because I all of a sudden got catapulted to being the Democrat who left the left, the symbol for being the Democrat who left the left in 2020. I was held up on all these conservative shows. I was getting all the attention. My platforms were growing. I was making money, all this stuff. And Carrie was fucking jealous of that because she wanted to be in my position, and her channel never grew like mine did. And her audience never grew like mine did. And so she thought it was a competition. So she then started working with her best friend, Mike Harlow, who is also Brandon Strzok's best friend in the walkaway movement, by the way. And the two of them started spreading lies all over the internet about me because they wanted me to shut the fuck up and go away so that Carrie could be the Democrat who left the left. I want to get this super chat from Cynthia. Cynthia, you are too generous to me, my dear. And I really, I appreciate you more than I can say. We love you and we have your back. It's over now. And you found your real people. You found your strength. Well earned. I appreciate that. I really, really do, Cynthia. And guys, if you want to see what Carrie Smith did to me, oh, wait, I've got you covered. Don't worry about it. If you want to see what she did to me, the amount of internet posts that Carrie Smith was making about me, look, there's a whole page on here. This is 2 years of internet posts right here. I'll put the link in the chat. We're not going to go through all of them. I just really want everyone to understand this, and this is just one person. There were several people in this gang stalking thing, but Carrie was one of the people instigating it, so I built this around her. This bitch made this is over 1,000 screenshots of this bitch lying about me online, spreading misinformation about me online, gossiping about me online. And this wasn't even the only thing that she was doing. She was also going into people's DMs and spreading misinformation that way. Ceiling Cat W, thank you so much for the channel membership, bro. I really do appreciate it. Now, what I did not understand at the time, because a lot of this information, I was trying to do what people told me to do. People said, Karlyn, don't acknowledge the haters. Just ignore the haters. Just focus on you and what you're doing. Well, guys, when someone is making over 1,000 posts about you on the internet, and they're in everyone's DMs lying about you. And by the way, I can't see the DMs, but I heard about the DMs. When they're doing this literally over and over and over and over, and all these posts are about me. These are literally all posts that Carrie has made about me. And this was in a couple years period. This, by the way, is a video Mike Harlow made about me. Again, Carrie's best friend. And Carrie shared that at the same time as she shared her essay about me, calling me her abusive mother. This went on for years. These posts got thousands of views, tens of thousands of views, hundreds of thousands of views. Other people started sharing them. They started creating multiple accounts about me. There were each of these people had multiple accounts that they were doing this shit from. And I'll tell you guys, I know that it sounds easy to say, ignore the haters, but when you are being gang stalked by so many people and they're making so many posts about you and they're going to people in the DMs and lying about you, and they're doing this every day of your life for literally 2 fucking years. They are trying to destroy everything. Every time I was on a show, they would show up in the comments or the chat. Every time someone said something nice about me, they would be in the comments saying, did you know that she's an awful person for a reason X, Y, B, Z, and meh. They attacked my family. They doxed my college boyfriend. They drove by my house and took pictures of it and posted it on the internet. They spread so many countless lies. I cannot even begin to tell you how bad this got. This is why I stopped going on other people's shows. This is, and by the way, there were so many well-known people who were supporting them and helping them and sharing this stuff. Matt Walsh has shared this stuff. Konstantin Kisin has shared this stuff. Colin Wright has shared this stuff. There are so many, what the fuck is her name? Katie Herzog did a whole fucking podcast about me. I Hypocrite did a whole video about me. Benjamin Boyce, one of the most disappointing people in this whole affair. Benjamin Boyce was supporting them. There were James Lindsay supporting them. Psycho Frank McCormick came out of this group. There are so many. Billboard Chris, by the way. Billboard Chris was part of this group, spreading lies about me all over the place. Like, I can name person after person after person. None of this was done by leftists. These are all the same classical liberal Zionists who are lying about people and attacking everyone literally to this day. This harassment from Carrie really started to pick up after the 2020 election. Actually, it was like literally the day after the 2020 election. It was literally the day after the 2020 election that Carrie really started going into high gear. And I know that because I remember waking up the day after the 2020 election and thinking, oh, what does Carrie think about this? I had no idea she was pissed off at me about anything. I had no idea any of this stuff was happening. I went to her Twitter profile and I found she's blocked me. And I was like, what the fuck? Why would Carrie block me? I have no idea when that happened. And she blocked me because she was really starting to ramp up the attacks on me, and she was getting a head start, I guess. So it literally was the day after the 2020 election that I found that out. Old Sub Sailor. Oh my God, 20 channel memberships, bro. I really appreciate it, bro. By the way, we've already brought in 64 new members of the channel. That's 64 new people for Spy Stream later, which is fucking awesome, guys. Thank you so much for that. Brandon Strzok turned walk away from a good movement into a conservative social club. Now, literal communists are more successful at peeling people away from the Democrats than Walkaway has been in years. Yeah, true. I was very involved in Walkaway. Walkaway is a conservative social club. It has nothing to do with getting people to leave the left. Oh, yeah. Yeah, see, people experience this all the time. Actually, let me know if you guys have experienced something similar to Chelly. One in the chat, if Carrie Smith blocked you just for talking to me or supporting my work. Two in the chat if that hasn't happened to you. One in the chat if Carrie Smith specifically has blocked you or attacked you or done anything to you just because you were replying to me or supporting my work in some way. Two in the chat if that hasn't happened to you. You guys are going to be able to see all the people this happened to. Yep, she just saw me talking to Karlyn, and that was enough. So Carrie really started doing that in December 2020. I laughed it off for a long time. I was just like, this bitch is fucking crazy. Mike Harlow, who is her best friend, was also doing it at the same time. Now, while all this was happening in 2020, I met someone online whose name was Kieran. Kieran he was in his like late 20s, so he's younger than me. But we just started chit-chatting, and he said he was a journalist, and he showed me all these receipts, and we just started talking about the leftist stuff. And honestly, Kieran became like a brainstorming partner for me. Kieran actually did teach me a lot about research and stuff like that in terms of like doing journalism. I wasn't doing independent journalism yet. I had no fucking clue what I was doing. Kieran had experience doing this, and so he was teaching me about it. Also, Kieran was monitoring like far right groups. He was monitoring extremist far right groups, and they were talking about me and they were attacking me. And so that was actually how we got in touch. Is he messaged me one day. I'm remembering, by the way, I'm speaking all of this extemporaneously because I don't have to lie in this situation. I don't have notes. I'm not reading off of notes. I'm telling you what happened to me as I experienced it. And I'm doing it all off the top of my head. And the reason I can do it off the top of my head without any sort of notes or prompts is because what I'm saying is the truth. I don't have to remember any lies. So Kieran messaged me, and I think this was like early 2021 or something like that. They're talking about you and all these extremist right-wing groups, blah, 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 whatever. So we started talking about like all the leftist stuff. And actually Kieran, became like a creative brainstorming partner for me. We started talking a lot on Zoom and that sort of thing. Well, at some point, and then we were going to start a business together. We actually had a whole business plan that eventually became basically the foundation for what I'm doing now. I came up with the business plan basically for what I'm doing now when I was talking with Kieran back in 2021. And we were going to do this together. And because he had very different strengths than I did, we were also going to be doing more art heavy components and stuff like that. I'm not going to go into the whole issue, but basically, there came a point where I had a friend that wanted to go to London. This was again during 2021. This was late 2021. I had a friend that wanted to go. Kieran lives outside of London. He lives in England. I had a friend that wanted to go to London because he likes London. And I said, I want to go too. And I had barely traveled in years. And yes, I got the vaccine to travel. I got the J&J. I have no fucking regrets. I had traveled so much in my life. And by the way, a lot of times when I travel, I do travel by myself. My husband doesn't come with me because my husband and I are married, but we operate as two individuals who actually have separate lives and do things separately. And then we come back and we're married. And I've always traveled by myself. I've gone to Peru by myself. I've done week-long retreats in Sedona by myself. I used to go to California by myself all the fucking time for weeks at a time. I travel, and that's not to say I won't take vacation with my husband. We do that too. But my husband had a job here. I had the ability to travel. So there was traveling that I got to do by myself. So anyway, I said with my friend, well, you want to go to London. I want to go to London. I've never been to London. I want to go see the museums in London. I want to go see royal things in London. Why don't we go to London together? And then I was like, why? This would be a great time to actually meet Kieran in person because I had never met him in person and I wanted to test to see what is this actually going to be like in real life? Can we actually move forward with this business or do I need to make other fucking plans? Okay. So I told Kieran about this. Kieran was all fucking excited about it. Kieran literally helped me plan the entire fucking trip to London, plan the entire itinerary, found a hotel that I was staying in. The hotel that I was staying in had the room I got in it for a great fucking price had two separate wings basically where it had like two bedrooms. And the thought was if Kieran needed a place to crash, he could be in the second bedroom. That was the thought process behind it. Not that it had to happen that way, but that was instead of traveling back and forth, he can make if he needed to, he could have a place to crash and whatever. Well, my friend backed out of the trip at the last minute. I still wanted to go. And so I ended up committing to the trip and I had a non-refundable fucking plane ticket. And I had a non-refundable fucking hotel room. I was like, I'm going to fucking London. I'm going to go. Worst comes to worst, I'm going to run around and see royal things for a week. And that's going to be fucking fine. And that's totally something I would do in terms of just picking up and going somewhere. Well, a couple weeks prior to the trip, on a Zoom call that was not recorded, and this is in October of 2021. So again, we got to do the whole scene. Carrie Smith has been out there gang stalking me with her best friend Mike Harlow for almost a full year up until this point. They're constantly making all these posts about me. I'm doing my best to ignore them. I'm trying to start this business. I'm trying to move on with my life and actually focus on my work. I have this person I'm kind of clicking with in terms of a creative strategy and things like that. And things are going really well. I'm going to London to go meet this person and to go to museums and things like that and to think about this business and to talk about it with him, find out if there's something that I actually want to move forward with. So we're in October of 2021. On a Zoom call, because most of my communication with Kieran was on an unrecorded Zoom call, Kieran confesses to me that he's in love with me and he wants me to leave my husband for him. Now, listen, I am not unfamiliar with people falling in love with me. It happens more than you might think for reasons, whatever, because I'm fucking awesome. Okay. But I did care about Kieran. Kieran is way fucking younger than me. And there is no reality in which I'm ever leaving my husband for anyone. My husband is the person I'm supposed to be with. I know that. My marriage is fucking awesome. And as much as I cared about Kieran, I didn't want to leave my husband for him. And I personally don't think that's unreasonable. And I tried to be so nice about it. And to be I care about you and all this stuff, but this just isn't happening and da-da-da. I try to be super nice because I understand, man. I really do. I understand. I get it. So we can't help who we catch feelings for. It is what it is. Well, when I said that, has anyone ever seen someone have a narcissistic snap, narcissistic break? I had seen this once in my life before with another person where they had a narcissistic break right in front of me in the room I was in while they were looking at me. It is one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen in my life. One in the chat, if you've seen someone have a narcissistic break right in front of you, you will never fucking forget it if you see it, by the way. It is like a complete shit. It is both the simplest thing and the most dramatic thing at the same time, because in an instant, everything about that person changes. Everything fucking changes, and it's fucking horrifying. When I told Kieran I wasn't gonna leave my husband for him, he had a narcissistic break right in front of me on the Zoom call. And he refused to talk to me at that point from any point forward. And he said that he was not going to come to London and that he was going to try to destroy all the plans that we had and yada, yada, yada. Well, okay, that fucking sucks. And I was really upset about that. And it really did kind of fuck up a lot of my plans. But like, at that point, what I said to him is, okay, well, and I tried, guys. I tried over and over and over to be nice. I tried over and over and over again to be reasonable. It didn't fucking work. So then what I did is I took the business plan that I created, mostly with his help, but I created it. I registered the fucking business in my name. I said, Kieran, the business is now registered in my name. If you want to relent from I hadn't really grokked what had happened yet, by the way. Like, I hadn't really kind of like, when it happens to you, it's a weird thing, because it's like sometimes you don't understand what's happening when you're in the midst of it. You have to have the benefit of hindsight. But I put down every single chance I could possibly give this guy to say, okay, well, we can still do like the anti-woke stuff. Just knowing that she's not going to leave her husband for me, that's going to be the way it is. And so it didn't work. And I ended up going to London, and Kieran didn't come for the entire span of it. And that was fine. I did all the things I wanted to do. I went to see royal things for a week. I went to a whole bunch of museums. I actually got very inspired specifically by an exhibit at the V&A. They had an Alice in Wonderland exhibit that was pretty fucking great. I got very, very deeply inspired by that. And I used my time in London by myself to really build out a new business plan without Kieran, because he was opting out of all of it because of what happened. Well, do you want to know why I gained all that weight that you guys harassed me for endlessly for years? Because when you're being gang stalked on the internet, it's not the most fun experience. And one of the ways I coped with being gang stalked on the internet was to put on weight. So, there you go. I am very well aware, by the way, that my work doesn't matter, my thoughts don't matter, my opinions don't matter. The only thing that matters is, of course, my weight. So while I was in London doing all this stuff, I didn't know about that. I didn't know at the time that literally while I was in London, just doing my thing, not bothering anyone, Kieran was running around behind my back, sending messages to everyone he could possibly think of in my community to lie about me, to slander me, to get people to come work with him on a project competing with me, and actually, let me ask you guys, for people who are in the chat, one in the chat, if you were a member of my community way back in the day and you got a message or some sort of communication from Kieran specifically, trying to get you to leave my community, trying to get you to stop supporting me, lying about me, spreading all this shit about me. I had no idea this was happening at the time, by the way, because it turns out when people are getting these shitty messages about you, they don't necessarily always want to come and tell you what's going on. They just either pretend they don't see it, or they just leave quietly, or things like that. Kieran got multiple people in my community not only to stop financially supporting my work, but he also actually recruited people to this little team of gang stalkers that he was starting to put together in order to try to destroy my fucking life. One in the chat, if you were in my community back in the day and you got a message like that from Kieran. I'm just curious. It wasn't from Kieran. It was from the other one. I know exact Justice. It was from Justice. I know exactly who you're talking about. There were multiple people in my community who got messages from different people, all going back to Kieran. Nick, we got to give a lot of credit to Nick. Nick was one of the very few people who actually fucking screenshotted the messages and sent them to me. And that was how I knew what was going on. Because of Nick. Because Nick's been around since the fucking beginning. So, but I had no idea any of this was going on. I was just doing my thing. So, December of 2021 hits. I've come back from London. I'm starting to do this new thing on my own. I was even still hopeful that Kieran would calm the fuck down and get his shit together. I hadn't fully wrapped my head around the fact that he's a narcissist. He's like an actual narcissist. I'm not saying that as an own. I'm saying it as in I am 1000% positive based on everything I've experienced over the years that this was happening, that he has narcissistic personality disorder. I am 100% convinced of it. You will never convince me otherwise. So come back from London. It's December 2021. Carrie Smith has now teamed up with Kieran. Kieran has reached out to Carrie and has said, hey, I hear you hate Karlyn. I hate Karlyn too. Do you want to attack and defame Karlyn endlessly for the rest of her fucking life until she kills herself? Maybe it wasn't that explicit. But basically what happened is I had this crazy bitch that was stalking me on the internet for a year of my life up until this point, making all these fucking posts about me, DMing people all this crazy shit about me. And by the way, I should say this just so people understand. I had only talked to Carrie less than 5 times in my life. Okay? I have literally only talked to Carrie less than 5 fucking times in my life. It's not as though Carrie and I were best friends. It's not as though Carrie and I really even knew each other in person. We didn't know each other in person. I had spoken to this bitch less than 5 times in my life. There was no private information. There was no like girl information. There was nothing like that. It was always just short conversations. There was nothing really of substance. There was no friendship, really. It was like we knew each other, but we didn't really know each other. And then she just started losing her fucking mind about me on the internet. So she ends up teaming up with Kieran. And then there's also Mike Harlow. Mike Harlow's Carrie's best friend. And then there was also this Jewish bitch named Deb Fillman. You guys might remember Deb Fillman because, not that one, this one. You guys might remember Deb Fillman because Deb Fillman ended up getting dragged all over Twitter for making overtly racist posts about a little black girl in Target. And listen, man, normally I'm not going to call out racism, but when you're like making shitty comments about a little black girl in an ad for Target, she got dragged all over the internet to millions and millions and millions of people. Deb used to be in my community. Deb used to basically take over my Zoom calls to try to get people to join her community. I supported Deb. I tried to help Deb build out homeschool curriculum and all that stuff. And she was one of the people that Kieran got to basically defect and go join his team. So it was Carrie Smith and Mike Harlow. I'll even show you all the characters. I'll show you all the characters. This is Kieran's Twitter account. It's currently private. It's locked because no one's giving him any attention. This is Carrie Smith. This is Mike Harlow. This is Deb Fillman. These were not the only people who were gang stalking me. These are the people who were leading the effort to gang stalk me. They were apparently, and there were so many other people involved in this, guys. There were so many other people involved. And the reason I know some of the things that have happened is because people defected from this little gang stalking group and they would come and tell me what was going on. So I know that they had multiple Telegram groups created where there was Telegram groups where they were specifically talking about how they were going to destroy my life all the time. And some people were allowed in some Telegram groups, but if you were considered to be a target by me, which means I pushed back on harassment on the internet, Then you got access to the elite Telegram groups. There were all sorts of different fucking things. Carrie, Mike, Kieran, and Deb were having weekly fucking meetings. They actually had a weekly meeting time where they were getting together to talk about all the ways they were going to attack me and harass me and try to silence me and try to destroy me. The reason I know that is because sometimes they brought in other people, and some of those other people defected and came and told me what happened. One person specifically who came and told me what happened, and I'm not going to say who it is, but you guys might be able to guess, because I don't know that they want that. I don't know that they want that because they didn't at the time, so I'm just going to say, if they want that, they can speak up. One of the people that was involved in this, he got involved in it because he thought they were trying to build some sort of anti-woke platform. And that's what they told him, like, we're going to build an anti-woke platform. And then he gets involved and he joins their group and he finds out literally they're just talking about me all the fucking time. And so eventually he asked Kieran, he said, when are you going to stop harassing Karlyn and actually just do this anti-woke platform stuff? When are you going to do that? And Kieran said to him, when she is dead. It was Christian. It was Christian. I wanted to make sure I had your permission before saying that. Because when Christian originally came and told me this, and Christian is a content creator that he and I were talking before all this happened, and I don't blame him for getting dragged into this. I understand why he did what he did. But when he originally came and told me that, he was afraid that if they knew that he came and told me, that they were going to turn on him. And there were so many people that would say things to me in private. There were so many people who would send me messages in private saying, Karlyn, I know what they're doing to you. And please don't say anything publicly because I don't want to get attacked by them. There was one person that stood by me the whole time, and I'll tell you exactly who it was. There was one person. Well, no, that's not true. There were a lot of people in my community who stood by me the whole time. There was more than one person that stood by me the whole time. There were a ton of people in my community who stood by me the whole time. I don't want you guys to think I'm dismissing if you were there during this and you were one of the people struggle sessioning me to get me to keep going. There were a lot of people who were there the entire time, okay? There was one other person too who defected. I won't say his name, but he left before me. Yeah, there were other people too. The one person who publicly supported me the entire fucking time, without question, was Gabrielle Clark. If you guys don't know who Gabrielle Clark is a woman who filed the first ever lawsuit against critical race theory in schools in the country. Gabrielle Clark teaches people. Gabrielle Clark had her, in addition to having her son have to deal with the critical race theory bullshit, her daughter was socially transitioned to believe she was a boy in school. Gabrielle Clark is an OG in this anti-woke stuff. Gabrielle Clark teaches people how to get their kids out of gender ideology. She's been around a long fucking time. She doesn't take shit from anyone. And she would say to me, Karlyn, they're coming after me for supporting you, but fuck those assholes. I'm going to say and do what I want. She was one of the only fucking people who stood by me, not only in private, but also in public. And I can never thank her enough for that. Because, like, again, people might think it's easy to say, ignore the haters. When you have people who are actively gang stalking you, and all of those people have multiple accounts, and all of them are making posts about you all over the internet almost every single day, and all of them are sliding into everyone's DMs lying about you. They destroyed relationships I had with other content creators by lying about me because they didn't want to get involved in all this stuff. When you literally have this happening every day of your life, everyone fades away because no one wants to be involved and no one wants to be affected. But I couldn't escape it. It was happening every day to me, whether I wanted it to happen or not. There was no choice. There was no choice for me. Christian said it was very strange. Whenever I'd suggest focusing on things other than you, they would tell me to essentially sit down, shut up, stay out of their way. In so many words, it was an obsession. I really appreciate you confirming the things I'm saying. Because people think I'm fucking crazy when I talk about this. People think I'm fucking crazy. I remember when I commented on the I Hypocrite video when it was live, they said, might want to sit this one out, Christian. So what Christian is talking about is these people planted a story with I Hypocrite and in many other places as well. They got I Hypocrite to do a smear video on me, which Benjamin Boyce later supported, by the way. So, like, literally fuck Benjamin Boyce. If anyone thinks that guy's fucking reasonable, Benjamin Boyce literally was sharing a video made about me at the behest of fucking gang stalkers by I Hypocrite. But that video premiered live on I Hypocrite's channel. Christian told me that when the I Hypocrite video premiered live, Carrie, Kieran, Mikey, and Deb watched it on a live Zoom call where they were drinking and having a grand old time at watching this propaganda video about me being premiered on the internet because they planted the fucking video by spreading all this bullshit propaganda. This wasn't just small little things, guys. They got a major fucking podcast. They got Katie Herzog, that fucking dyke journalist. That intellectually dishonest dyke journalist. They got Katie Herzog to do an entire fucking podcast smearing me. There are so many videos. Mike Harlow's got a whole video up. It's the most successful video he's ever posted on his channel. Just smearing me. They planned all this stuff and they posted all this stuff in these weekly meetings that they were having gang stalking me and then putting it all over the fucking internet. And again, I want to emphasize this. The entire point of all of this was they wanted to harass me until I killed myself. That was the goal. That was explicitly what Kieran said to Christian. When Christian asked Kieran, when are you going to stop harassing Karlyn? Or when Christian asked Kieran, I want to make sure I have the names right. When Christian asked Kieran, when are you going to stop harassing Karlyn? Kieran answered, when she is dead. That was the goal. That was the goal they all had. And I'm going to tell you guys, and you can go back. He's confirming it. I so appreciate you doing this. And I know you don't have to do this, but I really appreciate it. When I asked, when will all this end? They said, it's when she's dead. Yes. The Quartering started smearing me too because the Quartering is friends with Carrie Smith, and Carrie Smith planted all these stories with the Quartering because the Quartering's a low IQ retard. If you see anyone spreading this bullshit about me, guys, it is always, and I mean fucking 100% of the time, linked back to someone that is friends with Carrie Smith, Mike Harlow, Deb Philman, or Kieran. Every time. 100% of the time. They are always part of that little clique. No, because that's impossible to get because people think it's just internet drama. People literally think it's just internet drama. Why don't you just ignore it? It'll go away. Do you know how many people tell me, why don't you just ignore it? It'll go away. It doesn't go away. Not when they're gang stalking you. So you guys can go back and see the videos on my channel because I did videos about this at the time. I did videos where I explained it. I did videos where I showed screenshots. I did videos where I was crying and breaking down. There were weeks at a time I got extremely clinically depressed. I was clinically depressed. And I was still trying to work and I was still trying to push through it, but I got extremely clinically depressed. And people can remember that. That's when I gained all that weight, was when I was extremely clinically depressed because I was being gang stalked every fucking day of my life by people who were trying to get me to kill myself. Okay? Yeah, we won. I fucking won. They fucking lost. Yeah, Carrie was actually coming to an event I was supposed to be at in New Hampshire. Carrie came to PorkFest. PorkFest is a libertarian event. I used to run around with the libertarians in New Hampshire. I actually fucking live in New Hampshire. Carrie was coming to an event. John was around this entire time, by the way. I was actually afraid of what Carrie might do to me at PorkFest. That's no fucking joke. So I got extremely clinically depressed. I gained a lot of weight. If you go back and watch my videos from like 2022, you can see that it is not a good situation. You can like physically see that it's not a good situation. You can find videos of me breaking down and yelling on the internet because I was extremely clinically depressed and I was undergoing this really fucking stressful thing and I didn't really know everything that was going on. I had figured out a lot of what was going on. I didn't know everything that was going on and a lot of it was just confirmed after the fact, honestly. Cynthia, you're being way too generous, Cynthia, though I do really appreciate it. I wish I had been there. I was giving you a hug from Arizona. I cannot stand for that juvenile nonsense. I couldn't be silent. Let anyone try that now. Mama Bear, Cynthia, I don't think anyone's ever going to try this again after what I did. I don't think anyone's ever, I hope no one ever tries it again. And you know what the thing is, guys? Like, the dark night of the soul is like a spiritual concept to like, it's talking about hitting rock bottom. And you achieve your highest level of spiritual growth when you hit rock bottom. So in some ways, the dark night of the soul is like, it's a terrible thing to go through. I would never want to go through it again, but I am so much stronger now than I was back then. I'm so much more resilient now than I was back then. I'm better able to navigate all this stuff than I was back then. And so even though it was a really horrific experience to go through, I'm better for it. I'm better for it now, and I'm in a much better position now than I was then. Glad I went to PorkFest. I still have a great ass. Hey, thanks, Nick. I appreciate that. Yeah, and I need to emphasize this too. All of this was happening. All you were doing it, you were having it at the same time. Oh man, I'm so sorry to hear that, Seeker. I'm so sorry to hear that. All of this was happening, guys, as I was trying to build my platform exposing the left. All of this was happening while I was still trying to investigate the left. I was starting to go undercover with the left. We were starting to watch socialism on the channel. All of this was happening as I was actually trying to do serious content and build a serious effort to fight back against the left. And at every fucking turn, it was just destroyed by these people over and over and over and over and over again at every single fucking turn. My suspicion is that there may be an attempt to attempt and obstruct my content creation ambitions and retaliation for this. It wouldn't surprise me, Christian, honestly. Hope it doesn't happen, but it's an okay price to pay for doing what is right. Listen, Christian, just do what you want to do. I'm glad to help you in any way I can. I know the community will help you in any way I can, because so far as I'm concerned, you are a hero for coming forward and actually telling the truth about what happened, because there were a lot of people involved and almost no one has actually told the truth about what happened. And so you can do whatever you want to do. If I can get through this and I can be successful doing it, you can do it too, bro. You're very smart. You always have been. And, content creation is hard. Content creation is fucking hard. So this is all happening during 2022. That's when they doxed my college boyfriend. You guys might hear something like, Karlyn's married to a pedophile. No, I'm not. First of all, my college boyfriend is not the man I'm married to. So they smear my husband all the time. They call my husband a pedophile all over the internet when my husband is not even the person that they're talking about. But because I joked about marrying my college boyfriend, they all assume it's the same one. I never married my college boyfriend. I married one person, and that person's name is Victor Borysenko, not Aaron fucking Campbell Brown. But my college boyfriend, after college, went to prison for something he didn't do that had to do with he processed credit cards for his best friend's fucking site, like a porn site that his best friend had. He wrote a credit card processing program that processed credit cards for a porn site his best fucking friend had. His best friend was scandalous as fuck. His best friend did things he shouldn't have done and had someone on his site that used a fake ID that said he was over 18 when in fact he was 17. And because of that, his best friend was arrested on child porn charges because the kid had a fake ID. And then the kid went and slept with New York Times reporter Kirk Eichenwald, who blew up this story in the fucking New York Times. And then Kirk Eichenwald and this boy went and testified in front of Congress and said all of these fucking people are evil and they're exploiting kids, when in fact it was the kid that went to my college boyfriend's best friend with a fake ID that said he was 18 when he was really 17. And that is how the so-called pedo porn ended up on the internet. And then my friend, who had nothing to do with this, wasn't involved in the website at all, simply wrote the program that processed the credit cards for the website. He got roped into all this shit and ended up having to plead guilty to something he didn't do because he got railroaded by the government. People should understand, based on January 6th, that the government is not always above board when there is a massive political fucking scandal that's in the New York Times. Literally, there's a Law and Order episode about all this. There was testimony in front of Congress. And at that point, the government's going to railroad your ass and they're going to keep charging you until you fucking plead guilty. So my friend really had no choice. I knew he had nothing to do with any of this. And so I stood by him the entire time he was in prison because he didn't deserve to go to prison for 8 fucking years of his life for something he didn't do. Okay. Now, this had all been put behind us. My friend had been out of prison for a while. I hadn't even really spoken to him. Not much in the intervening years. He went on, he got a job, he got married, he had kids, he had all this stuff. He had gotten his life back, okay? Kieran, when we were still talking and when we were still friends on Facebook, went into my private Facebook pictures that only my friends had access to, got pictures of me and Aaron when Aaron was in prison, gave this information to Mike Harlow. Mike Harlow, Jewish, by the way, his real name's Michael Bernstein. That's an official court records. I'm not doxing anyone. That's official on the internet. Mike Harlow then doxed my college boyfriend and spread it to millions of people all over the internet at Kieran's urging to attack me and say Karlyn's a pedophile because of reason X, Y, B, and Z. So if you ever hear people say she's a pedophile or she supports pedophilia or she supports pedophiles or she married a pedophile, it is directly connected back to this, because that post that Mike Harlow made is still live on Twitter to this day, and it has millions and millions and millions of views. They dragged my college boyfriend through the mud in order to attack me. That was in, I believe, July of 2022. And that whole thing is documented on that website I showed you, survivingcarriesmith.substack.com. You can see all the fucking posts about it. I carry so much guilt that it didn't even occur to me that they might go after Aaron. It didn't even fucking occur to me because I wasn't a professional politics person. That wasn't what I was doing. It never even occurred to me that they might go after Aaron to get to me. He got dragged all over the internet. His workplace got all these phone calls. I haven't even spoken to him. The last time I spoke to Aaron was he DM'd me when all of this was hitting the fan, and he said, Karlyn, you didn't do anything wrong. And I never spoke to him again because I don't even know what I would say. I feel so fucking guilty for what happened to him. I carry so much guilt for what happened to him. Because I know that he lost 8 years of his life to prison for something he didn't do. And then he gets dragged by these absolute losers all over the internet in a way that no one can control. And they did it all to attack me. That's when the depression started getting really bad. And that's when I wanted to quit. That was when I was really done. I was fucking done. I was like, I just don't want to do this anymore. Like, I can't. And that's when I started thinking about killing myself. So they really did almost achieve their goal. Because I would wake up in the morning, and I'd lay in bed, and I'd say, there's no other way to stop this but just ending it all. It's never going to stop. They're just going to keep going. It had already gone on for over a year at this point. It had already gone on for a year and a half at this point, almost every fucking day in my life. And I literally had conversations with myself where I was like, the only way this is ever going to stop is if you just kill yourself. And I quit doing content for a couple weeks. And people in my community were like, Karlyn, what the fuck is going on? I was just done. I was done after that. I was done. Cynthia, thank you for the 20 channel memberships. I really appreciate you. You're a fucking rock star. We have to get the story along because I have to go in 10 minutes to go to this spy stream. But what I will say is the only reason that I'm doing content on the internet today is I was very lucky and very blessed to have so many people in my community that were supporting me. Even though all of the people who were gang stalking me tried their best to destroy my community, they tried to destroy my work, I had a lot of people that are just like, they're anonymous people on the internet, or you know some of them in the chat. Some of the people who are in the chat who are the most loyal people who've been around forever, they were around back then saying, Karlyn, you cannot quit. You have to keep going. We were just starting to get to the good stuff back then. We were just starting to get to the really far left stuff. Thank you, OC, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. And I basically was struggle sessioned by people in my own community repeatedly. And they said, we are not going to allow you to quit. We are not even, like, every time I would cry, every time I would have a crying stream, someone would, like, there would be people saying, Karlyn, literally shut the fuck up. You're not quitting. Like, every single fucking time. And I was like, I just don't have it in me at all. Thank you, average person. Hope this paints a better picture to newbies as to why we hate conservatives so much. Yeah, because all of this came from the right. None of this came from the left, guys. All of this came from the right. You know, they used to message Victor to try to get him to divorce me. They found Victor's Twitter account, which Victor never even really used. They messaged my husband repeatedly to try to get him to divorce me. I think my husband dealt with it as best he could. There was nothing really he could do about it. But as you can see, my husband and I are not divorced. And he was always there for me too. And listen, one of the reasons I love my husband, I will never, ever, 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 ever leave my husband, is that he is there for me unconditionally all the time. And sometimes when I just needed to cry, he would just sit there and let me do it. You know? So my husband is the best. He really is. I love him so much. I remember when you told us about the ex-boyfriend and a supporter call before all the drama. Yeah, I never hid that I had a friend. I literally never hid from anyone that I had a friend that went to prison. I literally never hid it. I talked about it with people in my community before any of this became public. I would say, oh yeah, my friend that went to prison for something he didn't do. Like, this was never a big secret until it got blown up by gang stalkers on the internet. It was part of the reason I was able to dismiss the drama. You weren't hiding it. And I knew people who had a similar experience with the law. Yeah, lots of people have been railroaded by the government for things they didn't do, guys. It's a sad reality, but it is reality. Appreciate the fuck out of you and your work. I wish I could donate more. Thank you guys for the super chats. I really appreciate that. So after my community struggle sessioned me, I decided to write what I call the book. The book is survivingcarriesmith.substack.com. And essentially, I went through and I took pictures of every screenshot that Carrie Smith sent about me between 2020 and the end of 2022. Even there's some stuff in there in 2023. And I documented fucking all of it. Because when I tried to explain this to people, what was actually going on, no one believed me. But when I put together over 1,000 screenshots of just this one person and all of the different interactions that they were having with other people and all of the people who were in this little network, and I just documented it all with screenshots from her fucking Twitter. This is not my opinion. You can literally just look at the screenshots. This took so fucking long to do. I had to go through thousands of fucking posts, okay? But I documented it all in one place and I published it. And they made fun of me and they didn't want to look at it and they didn't want other people to look at it. But at the end of the day, when they realized that I now had a website where I was documenting all of their bullshit, they started to shut the fuck up very, very quickly. When they realized that every single post they made about me on the internet was going to get put on a website where anyone could go online and see what was being said, they started to shut the fuck up. And so anyone that tells you, don't give any attention to the haters, don't pay attention to them, ignore them, that doesn't work when you're being gang stalked. And so when I put a big spotlight on them and said, just look at their fucking posts, they shut the fuck up very quickly. Thank you, Mike, for the gifted channel memberships. W's to you. Anyway, guys, that is the story. And things started getting better from there. And my content just kept taking off. And I just started getting more and more people supporting my work and more people into the community. And so I survived. I won. They fucking lost. Thank you, Deeds. Super generous. Please know that you are well loved. Your work is invaluable and our community is the best. Our community is the fucking best. Because we have the best people here. We have intellectually honest people here. We have people who don't tolerate this bullshit. There is a reason why I don't allow shitposting in the chat, because I do not want this community to devolve into that bullshit. I will never, ever, ever in my life go through that again. So that's the story, guys. And if you're wondering about the video I posted earlier, the narcissist who confirmed that he wanted me to kill myself, that literally happened last night on the stream. And I'll just show you it to you. It is pinned to the top of my Twitter. You can go watch the video. It's also on the YouTube channel. I'll just show you. I made a video of what happened last night on the stream. But basically, Kieran, under one of his sock accounts, came into the stream. And he confirmed, there was a lot of stuff, but he confirmed when I said that the goal that they had was to get me to kill myself. Kieran from his sock account says, you couldn't even finish the job. And now you guys know, because Christian Watson was in the chat, that when Christian Watson said to Kieran, when are you going to stop harassing Karlyn? He said to Christian directly, when she is dead. So now this is no longer in dispute, guys. I was attacked and gang stalked for years because a group of people wanted me to kill myself. I got clinically depressed for a long time. I gained a lot of weight. But I had an awesome community of people that were surrounding me that never let me give up. And that's why I'm able to do what I'm doing today. So, with that said, thank you for all sitting through my sad, sad story. And I hope you guys will come to Spy Stream, because we got to end this stream now, guys. We got to go into Spy Stream. We are watching a live leftist training tonight, and I got to end this stream so we can get the next one started up. This is a supporter exclusive. If you want to come see what the left is saying live by watching their organizing calls, join me for Spy Stream. If you are a YouTube channel member, you get to Spy Stream by going to the YouTube channel homepage. Thank you, Chica Lago. W's. You get to Spy Stream by going to my YouTube channel homepage, clicking on the post tab. The very first post at the top is going to be the Spy Stream link. I love you too, Kazmar. You're the best. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. If you're on the Substack, you can find the information there. If you're a supporter on Locals, Patreon, or Twitter, you can find the information there. Rumble, just stay put. A stream's going to pop up for you over there. And we're going to go into Spy Stream now, guys. So I don't want anyone to feel bad for me. It made me stronger. But I think it's important that people understand what actually happened. Okay? And I will never allow these assholes to shut me up or silence me. You can be sure of that. All right, guys, I'm ending this stream now. I'm going to go start up the Spy Stream. I will see you on the other side. Thanks for listening.